Welcome to the Taxing Subjects Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Norton, and today we're joined by Drake Software's Director of Marketing, Deanne Maddox, and Drake Software's Assistant Director of Marketing, Becky Reed. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Well, today we're going to talk about, briefly, how to market your tax practice, how to get yourself out there. So let's just go ahead and jump into that. And we can just kind of discuss how marketing has changed over the last 10 years.
So it's interesting. Becky and I have been working together for probably 12 years now. And over the years, we have seen it change immensely. We used to work together and just take the marketing budget and just do a shotgun approach with all the different mediums out there. And by shotgun, I mean we'd shoot and just hope something stuck. Over these last 10 years, we've seen significant changes with digital marketing and all the opportunities that are there. And not just digital marketing, but resources that allow us to track even print advertising and all the various different mediums that are out there. So we apply the budget, we put tracking codes with it, or a lot of the media actually offer tracking, and social media offers tracking. There's Google Analytics and Google AdWords, and they all can tell you who's coming to your site, who's clicking on your ads, and tell you great detail about what's happening. There's even third-party companies you can subscribe to that tell you data such as time of day, their interest, based on other searches that they've done. So it depends on how deep you want to go, but the way we are able to utilize that is to take that data and see what the ROI is, and then do more of what's working and do less of what's not. And it really helps us hone in on our budget and helps us test our message and see what people are responding to and make sure that we're putting content out there that's relevant to their needs.
You discussed social media and Google AdWords in addition to other more traditional types of marketing strategies. Could you talk about a little more in depth about those popular marketing mediums? And you said something about how you track and see how well your marketing is performing. So could you talk about how that process works? Just kind of walk us through that.
Sure. Actually, I'll let Becky answer most of that. She, over the years, has become Google certified, has worked with those third-party companies where we use the tracking resources, and spends a lot of time staring at the computer, looking at figures and numbers, and just trying to cross-reference what makes sense, make recommendations. So this is really Becky's wheelhouse. She does a fantastic job with it, and I'm really glad she does.
Thank you. Well, when I first started at Drake Software, the medium of choice at the time was MySpace, and so that tells you how far we've come. And businesses really weren't. That was more the social aspect of communication. Facebook, when Facebook launched, of course, it became probably one of the biggest mediums used by businesses. So if you're not using Facebook to market your practice, we highly recommend you do so. But through the Facebook medium, and you have Twitter, and you have LinkedIn and other places that are good B2B or B2C, you would be able to target based on interest or demographics, and depending on how far you want to reach and what your message is. Then you can drill down in the analytics just from that social medium to see the traffic and see the conversions you're getting. Google Analytics is a free offering as well for your website. And if you set it up to track conversions, you will be able to see what's working in your messaging. You'll be able to see the traffic. Where's it coming from? Is it certain websites that are referring to your site? And are they converting? And then how are they converting? What's the process of them going through your site? So I think that helps tweak your messaging between those two mediums there. Plus, of course, there's the emails that we would recommend highly. And on those platforms, you would be wanting to glean email addresses in some form or fashion. You would want to have some kind of a plug-in or something for them to submit their email and say, hey, I want to know more. And all of that offers very specific tracking for you to be able to target even more so. So there's so much data out there that's available even on free platforms that you can gather, and then you can target and you can tweak your messaging to reach different markets.
One area where I would just chime in with that, a lot of these are, as Becky noted, are free, but they can also be very cost effective. When you think about email, and we'll talk about this a little bit later as far as traditional mail, and we still believe in traditional mail, but emails are very, very cost effective. So if you have those databases, it costs you cents to send out that information to people, and then you can track every bit of the effectiveness as that as well. So it's this technology has allowed it to be more affordable. So whether your practice is really small and you're in hometown USA, or whether you're in a large city with a larger practice, it fits every budget really, which is a nice opportunity for everyone out there.
And it's probably reassuring that people can see actually how well their marketing efforts are performing, and that certainly would provide some more ease, make them not as uneasy whenever it comes to marketing. Because I know that some people, when they think about marketing, they kind of get scared about it, even especially with social media. That tends to be intimidating for people who aren't sure how to get their message out there in a way maybe that aligns with their business, the personality that they're trying to present for their business. Could you talk some about what kinds of messaging you would put out there on social media to try to attract customers and retain existing clients?
Absolutely. So with social media, a lot of people are very intimidated. We've had various outside businesses come to our marketing team and ask for advice and help, and even to run their social media pages. And marketing companies certainly can do that for you. But one of the things that we've learned and have seen over the years is that it's really powerful for you to run your social media, because it is just that. It's social. It's less about marketing and more about building a relationship with people that are interested in your business or your products, the services that you have. And so if you can just go be real, own who you are, what your business model looks like, and just target that market that's going to identify with you. And by doing that, you are going to be social. So it might be things as simple as posting, oh, so-and-so in our office got married, or we just did this neat thing. Our office loves to do a highway cleanup. We're having our holiday Christmas party today. Here's a picture from it. Just things to where people all of a sudden start to relate to you as a person instead of just this business out there, or just a person who, in this case, is preparing your taxes. But we're more than that. We care about you, and we want you to care about us. So I think if people realize that it's actually just being social, it's a lot less intimidating than thinking, oh, I have to articulate this specific message and I have to look a certain way. Just be real. And then there is also the side, in case of tax preparers, that you want to think about time of year. Maybe they need to know it's time to file an extension, corporate returns, any tax law changes. So you do want to have that balance of it's all fun and games, and showing that it's an opportunity to show what you know about your business and what you know about your industry, to build that trust and relationship that people trust you and want you to prepare their tax returns. So let's face it, that's I know I trust my accountant.
With and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but maybe with social media, and you talked about, Becky, being able to look at the literal metrics generated on, say, your website or on social media or on Twitter or whatever, whether it's Facebook, Twitter. I don't think MySpace is even a thing anymore. But what happens if you are just starting your tax practice? This is your first year. Maybe you worked with another company. Now you're striking out on your own. How do you know who to target to try to just generate those prospects in that first year and that second year? What are some things you can do?
Well, I would recommend, first of all, most people today have a Facebook page to start off with. And so I would definitely create a business page for my practice. And I would invite all my networking friends to like that page, because the more friends, the more followers you have, the more organic, free coverage you get when you make a post. With that as well, probably starting out, what is your goal? What is your vision for your office? What does your target customer look like? And you don't know that yet, but what are you looking for? So that's where you would begin your messaging, and then even the ads on Facebook to drill down and target by interest, target by demographic, target by zip code, things like that as well. So
for instance, if you really believe that you specialize in corporate returns, then the posts that you make on any platform of social media, be it Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, wherever you are choosing, if you have the time, I would recommend all of them. But if you're strong in corporate returns, then that's the message you need to be putting out there. And you need to think about, okay, who would be filing a corporate return? What are their interests? What is typically their age, income level, things of that nature. And that helps you hone in to go, these are the people I need to reach. And these people are great, but my message is going to be tailored over here. And I think another thing, just starting a business, every time we go on our phones or on our computer and we look up pizza in such and such town, those items that pop up first are Google Places. They're free. So you go in there and claim your Google Places, fill out your information, your location, your website, your office hours, things of that nature. That way when somebody types in tax preparer, that you're going to be one of the first ones that pops up.
And definitely have a website.
Yes.
Your business needs a website.
Let's touch on that, actually. So I'm just starting out. I'm a new tax preparer, or even if I'm an existing tax preparer who has never had a website before, what are some just basic strategies that I would want to make sure that those boxes are ticked off whenever I set out to get my website created? Is there specific types of content that I need? How do I make sure people can find my website and then, of course, my business?
So my first recommendation would be, obviously, keep your URL as focused on you as it can be. If it can be your exact business name, that's wonderful. You need to have opportunities on the website for people to sign up for email and additional information. That way you're gleaning that data that you can use for those very cost-effective ways to reach them in the future. You would need to think about keywords. What would people be searching for when looking for a tax preparer? And make sure you include those keywords on your website. And I highly recommend, again, this takes time, but doing blogs on your website. That increases your SEO, which is your search engine optimization, so that as people are searching, there's more relevant content that Google sees, and they're going to pull you to the top. It takes a little bit to get there because other people have been there for a while, so changing that content frequently shows Google that you're very active with your page, and making sure that the content's relevant. Don't duplicate your content. And that's why I say even the blog, even if it's a paragraph, a lot of people think, oh, a blog. But the sites are developed now, so where it's very easy for you to go in and type a paragraph in there, maybe add a photo, maybe even do something similar to your social media post, just expand on it a little bit more. But that's going to help your website have some great presence.
Or even share it. Share your blog post to your social media. Absolutely. And to your LinkedIn account and to your Twitter. I mean, you can definitely cover cross-platforms with that and get a lot of traction with that.
I don't want to scare anybody, but you mentioned pictures. So what are some things people should not do when it comes to, say, images or other content that maybe they did not produce themselves?
That's a really good point, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Your pictures need to be your pictures. That kind of sums it up to me. If you take a photo, obviously, the prettier, the higher quality, the better. If you have the funds for a professional photographer, even better. But you can't simply go out there and search stack of dollar bills, because that's an image you want to do, and just take that from wherever you find it online. Chances are it's owned by somebody else, and they will find you, and that's not good. So there are opportunities to subscribe, and there's a lot of places, we won't get into all the different sites, but you can search where you can purchase photos, and sometimes they're as cheap as a couple of dollars on up to higher royalty fees and whatnot, depending on what it's worth to you. But
and on social as well, on social as well, they do have the choices when you're creating ads. If you decide you're going to generate ads, you can generate them to like your page or to follow you or to sign up, however, whatever the message. You have choices of graphics you can choose with that are legal because they're through Facebook.
And if you use a marketing team, they will most likely be subscribed to some type of photo company where they have the rights to utilize these for your marketing. So yeah, just make sure that your photos are your photos.
All right. Jumping back a little bit while you're talking about the website and having sign-up opportunities to collect emails. I know that Drake does send out broadcast emails. I know your team works on those. Could you discuss some of the things that you have to do to not just logistically get the emails out there, but to make sure that the email messaging is effective?
Well, we always try to have a strong headline. As far as the tracking, the software we utilize often allows us to do what they call A/B testing. So we can send out headline A and headline B, or subject line, and see what people respond to. You can test images, you can test colors, and then it will eventually, after doing a small sample testing, realize whether you're getting more results and shoot that out to the rest of the people. A lot of what we do, and we don't want to get deep into this, but there is something called the Can Spam Act, and I really wanted to bring a little jar of spam today just to help people remember. But if you're going to do emails, you need to very much read that. It's the law, and if you follow those steps, you will be legal in how you're reaching out to people, all the different steps that are required in that. There's a handful of little things you need to make sure you do, and then you're in the clear. Also, if you use a third-party company to send those emails for you, they specialize in this. They will keep you legal as well. Do you have anything to add? I know you do a lot with the emails. So,
with respect to emails, I know with getting people to sign up, if you're an established tax preparer, you probably already have a pretty decently sizable list of emails for clients that you've had in the past that you can contact. Roughly, how frequently should you reach out to customers? Do you want to blow up their inbox with lots and lots of emails every week? Is it more biweekly, monthly? What would be your recommendation, especially in light of, as you mentioned, tax preparers have a very specific season, and everybody knows about it because every time you hit January, the news channels are talking about it. It's almost tax day, or at least it's almost the beginning of tax season. The tax day would be in April, but what are some recommendations for timing and that sort of thing for tax professionals who are listening to us today?
I think that would be relevance to the messaging. I think that you don't want to email your customers just to be emailing your customers. I think it needs to have a very relevant message that's going to intrigue them to open it. It needs to be something that's going to be of interest or concern to them.
Yeah, I think if it's information that's going to help them, then they all of a sudden see that you're on their team and that you're wanting to be a part of them. So often our angle is, how can we help them with their business, or how can we help people grow their practice? For tax preparers, it would be deadlines that are coming up, tax laws that are coming up, maybe even in December. Hey, here's some final reminders of tax deductions that you could be taking, or here's a checklist of items that you're going to need to bring in before you come to have your taxes prepared. That way everything's all together. We tend to follow the season. I mean, we reach out to people all year long. We post on social media all year long, but obviously as corporate deadlines come closer, there's a little more of a peak, or as tax season approaches, based on different information that's relevant at that time, our frequency increases, just because people actually care at that time. So you don't want to blow up their inbox, especially if it's something they don't care about.
And don't want to beleaguer email too much more, but if I'm a new tax professional, what are some ways I can start collecting emails? What would be some strategies there, whether it's traditional marketing means or community outreach? What would you recommend for me if I'm just trying to build up both my prospect base and therefore my ability to communicate with people through email or whatever?
Sure. You mentioned community outreach, and I think a lot of this depends on what size town you're in or who you're trying to target, but oftentimes it's really beneficial to get involved in your local chamber, to be a part of, say, a Rotary Club or a Lions Club, to get out and network and meet other people. You have an opportunity to tell about your business, learn about their business, and through those opportunities you can change business cards, ask them if they want to be on your email list. People need to want to be on your list. That's part of the things you'll see in the can spam. They need to be opting in. So there's ways like that you can just go out and grassroots get your hands dirty. But as we mentioned with your website, you want to have an opt-in on that blog section or just anywhere on your site where people want to receive more information from you. I've seen overwhelming success with that with a few of our websites and some clients that we work with. It's just, I've been amazed at how many people sign up through your website. And then of course, you mentioned that tax preparers have a lot of data on their customers, but it's sometimes surprising to me that our customers aren't asking for their client's email. Just ask them for it when they come in to do their taxes, and ask them if they want to opt in and be a part of any updates and news alerts that you have, and fact sheets, tips, and things like that. Most of those people are going to want to give you their email address. Everyone wants to make sure their taxes are filed correctly and that they're following the law. And so I think most people would be very willing to give you that email address.
Mm-hmm. As well as text messaging now is also another option. You know, they have software that will do that as well. But you want to be sure you gather all contact information you can at the time you have the customer come sit down.
All right. So we can move away from, at least for now, more the digital aspect of marketing, whether it's social media, Facebook, Twitter, I suppose Instagram, something like that maybe. But what about traditional marketing? So with respect to digital, there are numerous ways to track the effectiveness, just your traffic in general, to know who's coming to see you. What are some things that we can do with traditional marketing, like say direct mailing, and are there ways with that to track effectiveness of traditional mailing, since you don't get that immediate feedback, say from the third-party provider or Google AdWords? What are some strategies for direct mailing or other more traditional means that could help tax professionals?
Well, I absolutely believe traditional marketing still has a place. And part of it, it's my love. I mean, 20 years ago when I started, that's what I learned. And so you kind of always hold on to your, I don't know, like your little baby blanket, but it really has shown to still work. And we are able to put some tracking in place. Some of it's not, it's a little more handwork than just data coming in spreadsheets for you to analyze. But you can put coupon codes on there. There are things called QR codes that some people find good results from it, some don't. It doesn't hurt anything to try, but a QR code is something you can generate free. You can look it up online and place that on your ad, and when people scan that with their cell phone, you can give them more information about your product or take them to your website, take them to a specific landing page on your website. So those are a couple of ways to do tracking with it. You can just overall, you need to know your market. Like, we use a lot of industry publications still. We use a lot of direct mail, and we know, like, if we take that away, we see a dip. If we add it, we see an increase. So a lot of it's just being in there, paying attention to your numbers, paying attention to your clients. So if you're in a small town and you want to try newspaper, did you see a spike that week? And so some of it's just paying attention yourself. And like I say, it's not coming in a fancy spreadsheet, but you can get a good read if you're attempting to focus on that. As far as direct mail, I recently spent quite a bit of time analyzing this. We were looking at doing a different direct mail project for one of our clients, and I was trying to decide, is it still effective? And read a lot of articles, blogs, and actually found some statistics, and it's still really strong. And I was surprised. We were looking at millennials. It's still very, very strong with millennials, and it was actually climbing. So, we tend to think everyone's digital. The benefit of digital is it's a little more cost effective, but direct mail is still showing a 2 to 5% response rate. And on that note, I would say if you're going to do it, you need to do the math on what it's going to cost you, expect a 2 to 5% response rate, then do that math to say, okay, I can make this much per response, and is it worth that cost? But if that will add up for you, then it's still going really strong, and we use it a lot.
We'll just kind of wrap up here before we sign off on the podcast, but let's just sum up for people what we've kind of talked about today. So you've mentioned Google Analytics, social media, email campaigns, and more traditional means, whether it's newspaper or direct mailing. What would be like your one major recommendation to people who are just looking to dip their toes into marketing before we sign off?
Well, Becky and I were talking about this yesterday. So one of the things she said is to be found. And I think that's so important. If people don't know you're there and they know your competitors there, it speaks for itself. So being found is claiming your Google Places, having a web presence, having a social media presence. But it's not just in the advertising in that manner. It's where's your location? What does your signage look like? Does your storefront look inviting? Is it clean? I mean, just all those little pieces really add up to it. And you also mentioned Google Analytics, and we touched on this a bit, but that can sound intimidating to people, but it's actually a free line of code that your web developer can put into your website, and then you can go in at any time, and you can't hurt anything. It's Google's information, so you just click on different buttons and just drill down, and we find ourselves kind of geeking out on it sometimes because it's really fascinating how vast the information is, and not everyone needs to see that, go that deep, but even just the surface level, it's fantastic information.
Well, all right.
I kind of steered away from your question a little bit, sorry.
Well, Becky, then, what would be your one major recommendation?
I think engage. I think you have to engage in everything that we've just reviewed and make sure that you're communicating. I think it's very intimidating, like we spoke of earlier. A lot of the preparers are very intimidated by beginning the process of getting on Google Places and getting in social media and even starting a blog of any kind. Fine, get your children or your grandkids today to come in and help you with the whole prospect of getting it started. But I think once you start and you begin to look at the data coming in, it's addicting, and I think it's a real good move for your
And I think
business.
You'll find once you start, all of these platforms want you to utilize their tools, so they make it very user-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be highly intelligent, and you're tax preparers, so you are highly intelligent.
Right.
So you can just read, and they take you step by step, and it's very great explanations, and just I could figure it out. So
Just get started.
Well, all right. Well, Deanne, Becky, thanks for joining us. And that'll be it for Taxing Subjects. We'll see you next time on the next Taxing Subjects podcast.